Alright, let me set the stage the way a real fan feels it in the gut. Because the moment that walkthrough report dropped, it felt like somebody dumped a full grocery list of problems right in the middle of the locker room, and yeah, it was only a walkthrough, not even a full speed practice. But when half the roster shows up as limited or not participating at all, the fanbase freezes. You look at that list and think, here we go again. Another week where everybody is being held together. With hope, tape and ice packs, a shoulder here, an ankle there. Someone dealing with a foot that will not settle down. Another guy fighting through a groin strain. And suddenly you start wondering how many pieces this defense and offense can lose before the whole machine starts squeaking. It is that phase of the season where nobody is fresh, everybody is hurting. And some guys are very clearly at the edge, and every time those injury updates drop, you can practically feel the anxiety bursting across social media. Because everyone wants to see this team whole at least once before the freezing winds of January arrive. Right in the middle of all that uncertainty, Reed Blankenship's name came up. And Vic Fangio actually took time to talk about him. And here is the thing, Fangio does not hand out compliments like they are confetti at a parade. He says what he thinks and that is final. If he felt Reed was behind, unfocused, or sloppy in the limited reps he is allowed to take, Fangio would have thrown out one of those classic "we will see" lines and left it hanging in the air. But he did not. He made it absolutely clear that Reed stays locked in on everything. Meeting room details, corrections, walkthrough notes, all of it, even while limited physically. He is not mentally checking out for even a second. That kind of praise only comes when a coach genuinely respects a player. Because Fangio is not the type to massage anyone's ego. So when he says he expects Reed to be ready, I believe him without hesitation. He is not speaking just to be nice. But something else stood out even more. The expectation that Sidney Brown is stepping into that starting role. And that shakes the fanbase in a different way, because ever since he arrived, a lot of people have believed in his physical upside. Now, finally, he has the opportunity to prove whether all that potential can turn into actual impact on the field. Of course, the internet did what the internet always does. A handful of people invented wild narratives, implying that he injured his teammate on purpose to take the spot. As if a player in the middle of an NFL season would ever think like that. It is absolute nonsense. The hit was hard, it was unfortunate, and it was a football accident, full stop. Anyone who has ever played a contact sport knows that sometimes bodies collide at the wrong angle, and things go bad instantly. Seeing that bizarre theory floating around only proves how many people love creating drama even when there is no story. What actually matters is that Fangio talked about Sidney Brown with the same kind of sincerity he used with Reed. He said the kid has been executing well, reading coverages, staying mentally sharp, and absorbing the system. That is not a small thing in a defensive scheme that demands discipline, communication, and has zero room for mental lapses. And when the coordinator says a young player is doing well and showing consistency, the fanbase needs to take that seriously. It means that at least in practice, he is showing he can handle responsibility. But of course, practice is practice and game day is another universe. Only when the bullets start flying will we know whether he can truly handle the workload as a starter, or whether the defense will need to reshuffle. Maybe bringing in Cooper Dean at safety or sliding someone into the slot to balance things out. And while the defense tries to reorganize itself, the other side of the story is already on fire, the trash talk. And my friend, when you involve Cowboys and Eagles, there is no such thing as calm. George Pickens' jab landed like gasoline, igniting on a match, because everybody knows how Philadelphia fans react when someone chooses the wrong tone. But the truth is, any team that wins a rivalry game that massive is going to puff its chest. It is part of the tradition, and if the roles were reversed, Eagles fans would probably be screaming from rooftops too, because that matchup hits a different emotional nerve every single year. But Pickens decided to poke the bear, throwing out comments about the fans. The city trying to hit the pride button. That old trick to keep the online buzz going after the final whistle. The funny part is that he forgot one important detail. None of that talk matters unless your team stays relevant through the season. That is where the Eagles fanbase claps back. With the same intensity, not in the "oh, we are offended" tone, but more like, "Dude, you do not even know if you will be in the postseason. Calm down," because once the trash talk hype fades, what is left are the actual facts from the field. And anyone who watched that game closely knows that Philadelphia did more damage to itself than the opponent ever did to them. Injuries piled up. The secondary turned into a patchwork puzzle. To crucial plays unraveled because of straight miscommunication. And when you mix all that together, you open giant holes that any receiver could take advantage of. Not because they dominated, but because chaos handed them opportunities on a silver platter. And the fans know this. They know it so well that nobody kept repeating that so-and-so cooked the secondary or this guy dominated. That was not the conversation. The real conversation was, once again, the team started strong, built a lead, controlled the game, and suddenly imploded with self-inflicted mistakes. That frustration hits deep. The fan looks at the roster and wonders, how does a group with this much talent still struggle to put together one complete, polished performance? How does an offense this stacked swing from sharp to scattered in the span of a few drives? And that is why, when someone from the outside tries to rub it in, the Eagles fanbase does not waste breath. Because the focus is not on the opponent, the focus is on the team finally finding stability. And that is where Jalen Hurts steps in the middle of the noise. He shows up with that calm, cold, precise tone that makes it clear he is not interested in narratives. Someone asked him about progress in the passing game, and he basically said it does not matter. Stats do not matter. Aesthetics do not matter. How it looked does not matter. Winning is the only priority, and when he says it like that, you understand exactly what the internal atmosphere is. You can tell he is not trying to defend anyone or shift blame. He is simply tired of background chatter. He wants results. And when your quarterback carries that laser-focused mindset, that determination to fix things no matter what, the whole roster feels it. But the most interesting part is that the passing struggles are not even about Hurts' arm. The issue is the route design, the rhythm, the predictability, the lack of creativity. Anyone who watched the tactical breakdown saw how the protection is breaking down. And some individual performances along the offensive line were honestly alarming. When your quarterback is trying to make a read and someone is already in his lap, before the play has time to breathe, no offense in the world is going to function. That creates the perfect cocktail of anxiety and frustration for the fanbase because the talent is there, but the execution sometimes feels stuck in mud, dragged down by calls that everybody in the stadium can predict before the snap. And that is not even touching the run game, which also needs adjustments. Some players look physically spent, maybe tired, maybe carrying more nagging pain than they admit, and at the same time, another player, fresher and more explosive, is doing more with fewer opportunities. It is that classic dilemma: stick with the veteran because he has the resume, or increase the workload for the guy who clearly looks sharper right now. It is a tough balance, especially when one of them has been worn down heavily and the other looks almost brand new, ready to take on a bigger load. All of that paints the exact picture of where the fanbase is right now. Too many injuries, too much pressure, too many expectations, and not nearly enough patience left. The math does not work unless this team starts delivering complete performances, because you can see where the identity wants to go. You can see that this roster was built to attack through the air, push the tempo, unleash the quarterback's arm and create mismatches, but for that identity to click, the protection has to tighten up, the route designs have to evolve, the play calling has to deepen. And above all, the team has to stop repeating the same mistakes that have already cost them entire games. All right. So picking up right where that energy leaves off, the vibe inside the fanbase right now feels almost like everyone is holding their breath, waiting for that one game where the Eagles finally show who they really are. Because you can sense that there is a high-level team trapped beneath the surface, trying to break through all this chaos of injuries, tactical adjustments, and questionable decisions. Every week feels like a new episode of a series where the writers keep adding extra plot twists, and the fans are tired of living on cliffhangers. They want to see this roster play loose, aggressive, dominant, without that sudden collapse in the third or fourth quarter that has become way too common. But that desire to see consistency runs straight into the same problem that has defined the season. So far, execution. That is the word. The team knows what needs to be done, knows how it is supposed to be done, but cannot seem to put all the pieces together at the same time and inside the building. What makes the whole situation even more intriguing is how the atmosphere feels split between frustration and confidence. The veterans talk as if they are centimeters away from finally clicking, while a chunk of the fanbase sits there thinking, how long can this speech carry the team? Inspiration does not win games if the plan is not applied correctly. And that is exactly the biggest criticism hovering over the coaching staff right now. Some weeks, the offense looks like a loaded luxury car, but insists on driving with the parking brake halfway on. Other weeks, the defense looks sharp and steady for most of the game, then falls apart as soon as the opponent makes the right adjustments. It feels like the team is missing that final tuning, that tiny detail that separates a competitive squad from a truly dangerous one. Defensively, things have turned into a giant puzzle. It is not just about being short-handed, because every team goes through that. It is about how each absence destabilizes the entire structure. When you lose a key starter, you do not just lose talent, you lose communication, rhythm, instincts, all the automatic reactions that come from playing together. And that is why the secondary has struggled so much. A read that should take 1 second suddenly takes 2 or 3. And at that point, a smart receiver is going to find openings that should not exist. The worst part is that fans keep watching this pattern repeat week after week, like a loop that nobody knows how to break. And in the middle of all that, Fangio is working like a surgeon, trying to keep the defense alive. He knows he cannot rebuild the entire unit overnight, especially with different names entering and leaving the injury report constantly. He is trying to maintain the system while stitching emergency patches all over it. That is why players like Sidney Brown, Reed Blankenship, and even some lesser-known backups have become crucial. These guys do not have the same mileage as the veteran leaders, but they need to act like they do. They need to react fast, communicate even faster, and pay attention to every microscopic detail. When the scheme demands absolute precision, one hesitation can become an explosion for the offense on the other side, and that is why the coach keeps hammering on mindset, preparation, and recognition. Physically, the group can hold up. The challenge is sensing decision-making, instinct, and execution in the exact moment the play unfolds. While the defense tries to stay afloat, the offense is dealing with its own mirror image of chaos. It almost looks surreal to see a group with this much talent struggle to produce consistently. But that is exactly what has been happening. There are stretches where the offense looks brilliant, drives that flow with rhythm, plays that show the unit's full potential. But then one small mistake shows up, a mistimed route, a missed block, a protection breakdown, and suddenly the entire rhythm collapses. It is like someone yanks the power cord out of the wall, and when the rhythm disappears, everything else falls with it. It affects the quarterback's timing, affects the way receivers adjust, affects even the confidence of the play caller. The offense becomes predictable not because the staff lacks creativity, but because fear of mistakes makes the plan shrink. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. The Philadelphia Eagles have suddenly become the center of a growing buzz after the official announcement of Jermaine Johnson's arrival in a lightning-fast deal that caught both fans and analysts off guard. The move unfolded with unusual speed, sparking a wave of speculation about what exactly the front office is plotting and how the powerful edge rusher will fit into an already ambitious roster. Whispers around the league suggest that the negotiation came together so quickly that even insiders were left scrambling for details. Some observers claim the Eagles had been quietly monitoring Johnson for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Others believe the move hints at deeper adjustments behind the scenes, perhaps a shift in defensive philosophy, perhaps an undisclosed injury concern elsewhere, or maybe a response to internal evaluations that have not yet reached the public. The arrival of Johnson, known for his explosiveness and relentless motor, has also stirred conversation in rival camps. A few executives, speaking off the record, reportedly expressed surprise at how decisively the Eagles acted. That sense of urgency has fueled theories across sports radio and social media timelines. Did the Eagles fear another team was preparing a bid? Was there pressure from within the locker room to add a disruptive presence? On the edge, fans, meanwhile, have been dissecting every scrap of information, from short clips of Johnson stepping off the plane to comments from players reacting with carefully measured enthusiasm. Even without official explanations, the mood in Philadelphia feels charged, as if this sudden acquisition carries implications that extend far beyond one roster spot. For now, the organization is keeping its cards close to the vest, offering little more than confirmation of the deal. Yet the silence has only intensified the chatter. Something is brewing, and whatever the Eagles have in mind, the arrival of Jermaine Johnson has become the latest spark in a storyline that refuses to stop gaining momentum. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.